The Canon BG-R10 Battery Grip has a ton of cool features, but there's really one main reason why it's a must-have if you own a Canon R5 or an R6, and today I'm going to tell you why. What's up everyone, Pete Coco here. Before we get started, do me a favor and gently tap that like button. Don't smash it, and subscribe to my channel. Please leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this video. And now let's get right to it. I picked up an R5 a few months back, and it is hands down the best Canon camera I've ever owned and one of the best cameras that Canon has ever produced. Now, as a portrait photographer, the camera is almost perfect in my eyes, and I find very little to complain about. But there is one issue that's cropped up, and that's the basis of this video today. Part of the reason why I call the grip for this camera a must-have accessory is because in general, I'm really not a grip guy. I honestly prefer the camera without the grip because it's smaller and less cumbersome, and most of my portrait work I do in horizontal format. I also think that turning the camera vertically and holding your hand on the regular shutter button is nowhere near as arduous a task as most of us photographers make it out to be. So when I purchased my R5, I really had no intention of purchasing the vertical grip for it, especially because it clocks in at around $350 US. Now this is an awesome grip for sure, no doubt about it. So let's just discuss a few of its features. One of the pleasant surprises about this grip when I opened it was the sheer amount of buttons that Canon has managed to cram into it. So gone are the old days of you're lucky if you get a shutter button and maybe an autofocus button. I mean, they threw the kitchen sink into this thing, which is cool. So the vertical grip has a dedicated multifunction button, which I actually use as my ISO control. Has two command dials, one on the front and one on the back, so you got your aperture and your shutter speed covered that way. It has an additional multi-controller, which is basically you can do everything with. It has a dedicated AF control, as well as AE lock and some other cool features. So they're really giving you a lot on this grip. And for those of you who always want to have the grip on the camera and prefer it this way, using the camera in a vertical format is super easy, it's a lot of fun, and it's really a joy. And let's not forget, of course, the grip gives you the ability to have two batteries in the camera at one time. So as you can see, there are plenty of great reasons to own this grip, and even though it's a bit pricey, you're getting a lot for your money. But in my view, and for the kind of work I do, there's one main reason why this grip is truly a necessity, and that is battery life. For me, the biggest issue I've encountered with my R5 shooting portrait work in my studio is the battery life, or the lack thereof. One of the first things I noticed when I switched over to my R5 was that I couldn't get through an entire portrait session without having to change the battery. Now this might not seem like such a big deal to most people, but it really is bad for a number of reasons, and so let me explain to you why. First issue that crops up is that if you're shooting tethered, which you should be, if you're not, that's for another video though, you need to shut the camera off, take the battery out, put a new battery in, and turn the camera back on. Then you have to wait for the camera to re-tether to your software. Now in general, this isn't a big deal, but the problem is that I've had a couple of instances where the camera would not tether after I changed the battery. And it took restarting everything and a good 5 to 10 minutes to get the camera to restart. Now I think that has something to do with the kind of card you're using in the camera, so there is a little bit of another issue there. But this became very frustrating, and it's not something I want to have to deal with when I'm in the middle of a portrait shoot. Now, the other reason why you don't want to be changing batteries in the middle of a session is because it disrupts the entire flow and energy of your session, and it can really be harmful to, the energy you've created with your client over the course of time that they've been there. So I had that situation as well. The battery died, I needed to change the battery, and it threw off the energy of the client a little bit, and it took me a minute to get us back to where we were. So if the battery dies in the middle of the shoot, or if it's about to die and you have to change it, you risk missing that perfect shot. So for me, this was something that I could not deal with, and I decided, all right, I need the grip. The other thing is that my sessions can go anywhere from 1 to 3 hours easily. So if I do a headshot and portrait session combined, you're talking easily 3 hours between multiple changes of clothing and moving lights around and all of this. So I don't want to have to worry about the camera dying right before I get that perfect shot, because if you miss it, you might never get it again. So the main reason, and I think the strongest reason that you should get a grip if you own an R5 or an R6 is that it's battery life. And the battery life of the camera is good, don't get me wrong, it's just not as good as my old DSLR because you have a full-time screen going and it's obviously going to be a little bit more power intensive. So for me, the main reason, in fact, the only reason I felt like the grip was a necessity was the extended battery life. Everything else in my book is just gravy. And I will say with the grip, the battery lasts a super long time. I don't even have to think about it. So it really is perfect. Once you have 2 batteries in there, you don't have to worry about changing anything. It's awesome, it works great, and I'm really enjoying it. And I do like having the vertical shutter button and vertical controls. And when I do shoot vertically, it is nice to be able to have the extra shutter button. So I'm not hating on grips as much as you may think. And overall, it makes the camera feel much more substantial, although I would argue that even without the grip, the camera feels great. It feels very pro, even on its own. But there you have it. So what do you think? Do you have an R5 or an R6? Do you have the grip for it? Do you think it's a must-have accessory? Have you experienced similar things to what I've experienced? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, thank you to all of you who've been watching my videos and liking and sharing and subscribing. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing the next one. If you have an idea for me, or if there's something specific you'd like me to talk about in the next video, let me know in the comments. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next time. Bye, everybody.